Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. It's 9:02 a.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards in the boardroom and Commissioner Carolina Mejia through the Zoom, as well as County Manager Miro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. The public can follow along through our county YouTube channel, Thurston County YouTube, or through a conference line at 360-252-9020, and the pin for that is 1234. Start this morning as we usually do on Tuesdays with item 1, COVID-19 update. I see Director of Public Health and Social Services, Shelley Slaughter, with us. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today is day 468 of Thurston County's COVID-19 emergency response. In Washington State, there have been 423,382 confirmed cases of COVID since this pandemic began, with 5,640 Washingtonians who have lost their lives. This includes 9,532 confirmed Thurston County cases since the pandemic began, with 304 new cases occurring in the last week. This puts our current case rate on the Governor's Risk Assessment Dashboard at 199. Of note, the cases this last week, 81 were children under age 19, and over half the cases occurred in people under age 29. 91 Thurston County residents have died, and this includes 5 that we have lost in the last week. 555 Thurston County residents have been hospitalized due to COVID since the pandemic began, with 9 new hospitalizations occurring of Thurston County residents in the last week. Our current hospital capacity is 90%, with acute beds occupied with COVID patients of 10.3%. 19.3% of our ICU beds are occupied with COVID patients at this time. Our test positivity rate is one of the highest that we have seen in a very long time at 10.5%. We strongly encourage people to get tested if they are exposed to someone with COVID-19 or experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. We have testing available throughout the community and many healthcare providers and pharmacies. Today, our Thurston County Public Health and Social Services mobile testing team will be at Rochester Organization of Families from 10 to 1. Well, we're also in Lacey, Union Gospel Mission, and Evergreen this week, and that schedule is available on our website. Since this pandemic began, we've had 56 outbreaks in congregate care facilities here in Thurston County, with 4 that our team is currently investigating. In terms of vaccines, to date, we have administered 230,824 doses of COVID-19 vaccine here in Thurston County among all Thurston County providers. 43.9% of all Thurston County residents have had at least 1 dose to date, and 35.73 Thurston County residents are fully vaccinated. Of those over age 16, 54.3% have had at least 1 dose, and of those over age 16, 44.26 are fully vaccinated. Our target number by July 1st is to get to 70%. Vaccines are recommended for everyone age 12 and up now, and we have COVID vaccines, all 3 types, Janssen, Moderna, and Pfizer. Pfizer is the only one approved for children ages 12 and up. We have many vaccine clinics scheduled over the coming week. Today we are at Thurston County Fairgrounds. That's where I'm at right now. We are doing Pfizer today, and there are lots of appointments available. Tomorrow we will be at Yelm Middle School administering Pfizer, and we will be at Fairgrounds all the rest of the week. We encourage people to check out our Thurston County Public Health website and vaccine locator to find vaccines available. We do desperately need volunteers at this time, so we strongly encourage people, if they are interested in helping and being a part of this historic moment in helping to get Thurston County to that 70% mark to visit unitedway-thurston.org to learn about volunteer opportunities. In the biggest news that happened over this last week, the CDC and the governor affirmed that masks are no longer necessary for those who are fully vaccinated. The vaccines are very effective, and we strongly encourage people to get vaccinated if you have not done so already. Masks are still required for people who are not yet vaccinated. Also, we recommend that people continue to physically distance, wash their hands, and do everything they can to protect themselves and their families and their colleagues and others in the community from getting COVID-19. We are not seeing in Thurston County that drop just yet, so it's really important that everyone remains vigilant. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. I do have questions. So what's the deal? Who's the boss here? I heard the president say that we didn't need to wear masks if we were fully vaccinated. And I heard the governor say that. I listened to both of those news releases. So what's the deal about being around the courthouse supposedly having to wear a mask at work? What is that about? Is there some special legal requirement here? Is it a bureaucratic process that we're involved in? Who's kind of running the show, and do we need some legal advice on the topic, possibly? I've been vaccinated.
So the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries regulates requirements for employers. So at this time, all employers must still follow the current labor and industries requirements, which include all people wearing masks in the workplace regardless of vaccination status. We do expect that will be modified sometime this week, and we'll see changes reflective of the CDC and governor recommendations. But at this time, that has not changed, and employers are still required to make sure that their employees are wearing masks at all times.
So
also,
now, okay, go ahead.
Also, I was just going to say, in addition, even for people who are vaccinated, there are certain high-risk settings where vaccinated people still need to wear masks, and that includes settings such as correctional facilities, healthcare settings, including our vaccination sites. Everyone here is wearing a mask at all times, and schools, as well as other congregate care settings.
Do you have any laws that the public can refer to that you can tell me that I'm breaking some law by being here in the courthouse without hearing from labor and industries? Hearing from the governor of this state or the president of the United States is not enough?
I would really direct or encourage to Washington State Department of Labor Industries and Washington State for that information.
Okay, I guess this brings me to I don't know, a point of interest, I guess. Do we have anybody from legal here? I guess that question would go to the county manager, I guess. Is anybody here representing us today that's our legal representative?
No, I don't have anybody here, Commissioner. And I'll be more than happy to get any legal question that you may have and get you an appropriate answer.
I guess what I'm wondering about, I'm going to go a little bit farther on. I don't know why we don't have legal representing us on a regular basis when we're going to be in an official meeting making decisions. It's my understanding that if we make a decision that's wrong and we do it on our own, we're out on a limb all by ourselves. If we make a decision after being advised by legal, or after asking legal, if it's legal, and we get an affirmative that yes, it is legal, then we have certain protections. And I just don't understand why we don't have legal here. I see the agenda's been adjusted today. We're going to take a vote on expenditure of some money down at the atrium, I guess is what it is. I'd like to have legal here to advise whether or not that is a legal expenditure to, I don't know, use COVID money. I don't know exactly what we're doing on that issue, but I'd like to be able to ask legal so that if we do make a decision that turns out to be wrong, 3 county commissioners were removed from office inappropriately using the first CARES money, I think it was, about a little over a year ago now. And I don't want to be in that situation. I'm not a legal expert, and I would like to have what legal protection is available to us, but I think we only have that if we have legal available. So it used to be up until about a year ago that we had legal at our meetings, and I haven't seen legal for a while. Maybe it's the virus, but I do have that concern, and I'm concerned to see what my seatmates have to say about that, if that is a concern to them or not. So Chair, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at on this. Several topics, but I don't know if you've got a particular way you want to deal with it, or just have me wait. I guess that's up to the board of county commissioners.
I'd like to wait on the topic of what meetings legal counsel needs to be at and under what parameters. We can maybe take that up in commissioner items, because that's not really related to the health questions. I have a couple of questions for Shelley, and then we can circle back and make sure we've got the COVID-19 stuff covered. I guess 2 questions. One is just, is it possible to tell us if you said half the new cases were under 29, but I'm wondering about schools. Have we had any concern? Have we had any uptick in the number of cases that originated from schools or among school-age children versus people in their 20s? I would think that's pretty distinct demographic groups.
Yes, given the number of children who have tested positive for COVID, many of those children are attending school at this time. So there are cases in our local schools.
More than there were in, a couple months ago?
Yes.
Okay. This may be a question for the county manager, I'm not sure, but following up on Commissioner Edwards' questions about the masks in the courthouse, I completely understand what you explained and what I understood about the employees. But as far as the public coming in, like say to give public comment, are we requiring those folks to have a mask? Are we, are we doing something else? I guess, and this connects to a larger issue, that questions I have about it seems like the onus of the decisions that were made were, kind of puts things onto employers. And we're an employer. So in terms of making sure, when you have rules that only apply to people who are fully vaccinated, then the question is, how is those rules being applied? We don't have what I've seen on TV they have in Israel, where everybody's got a official government sanctioned passport thing on their phone, and they check everybody that goes into a theater for a movie or a concert or anything like that. And we have nothing like that. We have our little white cards, but I'm just wondering how we're managing that at the county, and then in a broader sense, how is this working in other areas of the community so people feel like they feel safe going to the grocery store or whatnot. So county manager, I'm going to throw this on you.
Yeah,
what are we doing?
I appreciate,
I
appreciate that, Commissioner. I haven't, because this is all good questions. and perhaps we don't have all the answers that you placed. I sure hope the Department of Labor and Industries will give us guidance as to how we need to manage the workplace, both internal to the employees as well as the public. At this point, what I'm saying, I cannot have somebody at the door checking for vaccinations for the public who comes in. We don't have that latitude. We don't have that ability, unless the Department of Industry is putting some perspective on this. So it becomes good questions and difficult answers. And at this point, I really don't have those answers, because the Department of Labor Industries governs how we should be managing the new guidance within the workplace. And that's what we're expecting, we're waiting to have. And this is not new. This is at the offices at the state level. I have in conversations with city managers as well. And all of us are in limbo until we can get guidance from labor industry as to how we need to move forward. So.
Okay,
Chair?
so understanding that, of course, we're not checking anyone's vaccination status, then are we requiring folks to come in to wear, like, should I be, as a chair of a board meeting, requiring someone to wear a mask to come to the podium, or has something modified from that?
Based on the current guidance of labor industries, it requires for all of us to come into the county at this point to wear masks.
Chair, I'd like to make a comment, please.
Okay, I didn't get my second question answered.
Okay, go ahead. No, I'll wait, please, when you're done.
I'm just curious then, okay, so that's our prerogative. Is something that, when you say labor and industries guidance, does their guidance extend in the case of county government to the public coming into the workplace? I see Robin's nodding her head.
Yeah, that is my understanding, sir. And
okay.
And again, all good questions, and I'm sorry I cannot provide you an answer at this point.
Well, that's okay. No answer is an answer of a sort. I just need to kind of understand that. If there is an answer, I need to know it, because I didn't see that in what I saw at the end of last week. My second question, okay, then I'm going to hold on my second question, go to Commissioner Edwards.
Okay, I guess as a follow-up to that, here, I want to show my passport. I got my shot passport here. So I have been vaccinated. And labor and industry regulates every business in this state, every place where there's an employee. Labor and industry oversees all of that. The governor is the chief of the labor and industry folks, as far as I know. And he said we didn't need to wear a mask if we were vaccinated. And I think it's just an extenuating circumstance to claim that people disregard the governor and the president of the United States. Those are the folks we look up to. I wasn't crazy about the whole process when it came down, but I followed those directives because the governor and the president said to. And I'm good with following that direction today. I don't think we have to wait for a month for some bureaucratic organization to come up with something in writing that affirms what the governor has said. And so I think it's, well, I probably don't need to say what I think anymore. I'll get myself in trouble. It's kind of frustrating. So, but it'd be kind of nice to have legal here so we could at least ask legal a question right now. That's it.
Well,
thank you.
My concern is that without it's not my decision, it doesn't sound like, but without any way to verify whether people are fully vaccinated, then you create a lot of uncertainty for certain folks in the population that may not want to come to the boardroom now, because there's going to be potentially unmasked folks and nobody checked if they were actually vaccinated. So they're not where they might have felt safe before, they don't now. And that's true everywhere, basically. So
Well,
So that's a big question mark for me as to how this new scheme fits into where we're at.
if legal was here, was able to quote me an RCW or something that says, yeah, I got to stand on my head, I'd probably do it. I want to do what's right and what's legal. But I don't want to carry this inconvenience on forever. And I think everybody's been pretty darn good about playing by the rules. And sometimes it just gets to the breaking point where we need to, you know, we can't even ask if the HIPAA rules are in place. We can't even say to the folks coming in, well, have you been vaccinated or not? That's a medical issue. So I don't know why we just don't bite the bullet, do what the governor said. Let's get on with it. I realize we're going to have people that maybe don't feel comfortable. Well, they should be staying home, taking care of themselves.
Commissioner Mejia, anything after all this?
Not really. I'm just trying to see how the process would work. That's what I'm really trying to wrap my head around, is how we would even monitor something like that. And it would be good to get some insight on what state offices or other places are doing.
Did anybody attend? I was tied up with meetings all day yesterday and didn't get to attend WASAC's Monday. I'm sure this was a topic of conversation. Did anybody, sometimes Robin, you attend that, or did you attend that one yesterday at noon?
Yeah, Robin and I attended. Go ahead,
Okay.
Robin.
Well, it sounds like if you guys attended and there wasn't any real answers, then that's the answer probably.
No, I think it's the same questions a lot of your peers across the state had. And WASAC at that time, members stated that label industry is going to be upgrading the guidance, hopefully by the end of this week. And that's what we have. Even they provided guidance as to how the state office are planning to open, but even that guidance has not changed from the current practice we are practicing. And that was the message. We need to wait until labor industries will give us some guidance as to how we need to proceed.
Okay, you didn't hear anything contrary at WASAC from?
Not that I recall, unless Robin recalls something different. Not that I recall.
I would only add that certain industry guidance has been updated effective the 13th of May. But none of those, it was like for sports venues and places of worship and some very specific things that do not apply to government. And the guidance for us is to wait for the L&I rules.
I would like to, is that in writing somewhere that I could see that? Maybe that would help, because I don't have legal here to satisfy my concerns. I'm not worried about this for myself. I've had the shot. I think it's blown out of proportion. I just don't want to continue to inconvenience people. Somebody's got to challenge this bureaucratic system that seems to go on forever. And I guess I see that as my role. So does anybody have any written material that says we disregard the governor, what he said verbally, until we get something in writing?
I seem to recall in the governor's statement that he had asked Department of Health and Labor and Industries to update their guidance, and it would be out soon.
Well,
I think we're almost there. It's just a matter of, you know, yeah, there was some loose ends from that.
and I think people are just tired of this thing. I mean, people have done what they've been asked to do. And I don't think we ought to continue to force this on them. If they've went and got their shot, they've followed all the guidance that the governor has laid out. The governor, I heard that press release that the governor did. I heard him personally say, you've had your shot, you're good to go. I did hear there were certain things about schools, I think, and medical establishments and some other issues, but I don't think we have to wait. If I'm running the welding shop in downtown Olympia, I don't think I have to wait for L&I to tell me to go out and tell my employee that they have to or don't have to wear a mask. I think that is ludicrous. And we're just dragging this out. So.
Okay, well, is there anything else on this topic? Ms. Shelley?
I have just one more thing to add. It is a source of confusion whether asking for proof of COVID vaccination is a HIPAA violation. And the information that we have is that it is not a HIPAA violation for a non-healthcare business to ask for proof of vaccination status. You may not ask detailed questions about why or why not they may have been vaccinated or anything else about their health situation, but asking for proof of COVID vaccination is not considered a violation of HIPAA.
I guess in response to Shelley's information there, and with all due respect, Shelley is not an attorney. She's not able to give us legal advice. I would hate to stand outside asking somebody for a HIPAA or for a vaccination card, and I'd like to hear from legal and tell us, because I think that's a federal violation if you violate HIPAA. So I haven't seen anything in writing myself, haven't seen it talked about. So another good reason to have counsel here at all times, I guess, to help us make the correct decisions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Next is homeless strategies update. I see Keely Marino.
Good morning, Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. Just a few updates. As we do every week, we'll give an update on rental assistance, the emergency rental assistance and eviction prevention dollars coming out of Community Action Council. As of this week, there have been 260 applications that have been approved. 450 more are in progress. There has been $1.7 million spent out in rental assistance in the first month of this program, and then $26,000 in utility assistance. So continuing to move along and serve our citizens who are in need in Thurston County. Other than that, just kind of some repeats from last week, but just some reminders. We have the Regional Housing Council meeting this next Wednesday at 4 p.m. It's a public meeting. You can go to the website and find the link to attend that meeting if as a member of the public, and make public comment if you choose. We will be presenting the RFP funding recommendations for the 2021 RFP funding cycle. Olympia will be announcing their choice for their new homeless coordinator here very shortly. I'm very excited to have a new coordinator that I can be working really closely with over the next while. And then by the end of the week, we will be meeting with the City of Olympia staff to go over the applications for the scattered site program, and should have a chosen application and an agency to present to the Board of County Commissioners soon. So moving quickly through that process and looking forward to starting that program. And that's about all I have for today.
Questions for Keely? Commissioner Mejia?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
All right. Happy for Teal Russell to be able to move on, but don't get any ideas, Keely.
I don't know. Just kidding.
Thank you for your work.
You bet. Have a good day.
Okay. Item 3 is review of this afternoon's draft agenda. We will call that meeting to order at 2 p.m. We will have a pledge of allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Edwards, consideration of the agenda and board meeting minutes from last week's meeting, a presentation from Public Works at 2:05. This is a proclamation for National Public Works Week. See, Jennifer Walker has her cool Public Works Week icon there and background. Good morning, Jennifer. County Manager, do we need to what do we need to address here?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. This is a yearly event where the Board of County Commissioners will have the opportunity to join a national effort to proclaim the week of May 16th through May 22nd, National Public Works Week. And Jennifer can give you additional perspective as to what the national effort involves in celebrating orange.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director. Yes, this is an opportunity for us to educate the public on what Public Works does in the community, and then also to recognize our employees for their dedication and hard work and the difference that they're really making in people's lives every day. It's how they're able to have clean drinking water, take their children to school, go to the grocery store, get to their job. And so usually we have quite a number of events, but with the modifications due to COVID, we have altered that a little bit, but our appreciation for staff and recognition of their efforts is as great as ever. So we'll talk a little bit about that this afternoon.
Okay, I see Craig, welcome. Anything else here, Ramiro?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys this afternoon.
Thank you.
Look forward to that. Sorry, Commissioners, I guess they're gone. I assume there was no questions on that one. Okay.
No questions, sir.
Okay, very good. Opportunity for the public to address the board, and then county manager's update. Anything to report there, Ramiro?
Yeah, I'm sure you will receive some public testimony this afternoon. You have received emails from a citizen related to the budget information that was presented to you during the budget amendment process. So you might receive testimony related to that.
Okay. Anything for Ramiro regarding items 1 and 2?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Consent items. We have A through F this morning or this afternoon. And 3A is emergency services sub-recipient agreement for fiscal year 2019 Homeland Security grant funding with Black Lake McLean Fire Department.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, this is the United States Department of Homeland Security provides funds to support the state and local efforts to prevent terrorism and other catastrophic events and to prepare the nation for threats and hazards that pose the greatest risk to security in the United States. This particular request is for you to consider allocating this grant funding from the fiscal year 2019 to the McLean Black Lake Fire Department. And this is to support their regional special operations rescue team. And you have also item 3B, which is similar. And the difference between the two, item 3B is for McLean Black Lake Fire District for $20,000, but that money is from the fiscal year 2018. And that is the reason why you have the two items for you. One is from fiscal year 2019, item 3A, and item 3B is for fiscal year 2018, and is for the same purpose. That will be the support the regional special operations rescue team. And all those two items have been vetted and recommend authorization by you, by the Thurston County Emergency Management Council.
Questions from the board? Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm good as well. We reviewed this last week, if I remember correctly. Item 3, so I can go to 3C then?
Yes, sir.
3C is appointment to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, you discussed this item last week during your agenda setting, and I believe the board agreed to have this item for your consideration to appoint Mr. Kevin Pessinger to the Planning Commission as a District 1 representative at large for the term of June 1st, 2021 to June 1st, 2027.
Any questions for this on this?
No, sir.
Item 3D is an auditor item, resolution reclassifying 2 positions.
Yeah, the county auditor has provided you some feedback that she's in the process of looking at a reorganization of her office. And the result of that is the first step is for you to consider reclassifying two full-time accounting analysts to financial analysts. The impact to the budget is goes from $6,641 to $7,321. That will be $680 per month. It's just about 10% increase. They expect to absorb this on the current 2021 budget, but as you know, any adjustments will be an increase on the upcoming years as part of the base budget. Any questions on that?
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner
No,
Edwards?
no, sir.
Okay. Yep, we went through this last week, so I'll go to 3E.
This is also another item from the auditor's office, and for your consideration is to reclassify the business application analyst to a business application administrator. This position was approved by the board on the 2021 budget with the understanding that it will be a coordination between IT, the Information Technology Department, as well as HR to define what will be the best position to be reclassified to. And based on their business needs analysis, the business application administrator is the position the county auditor needs. This particular change goes, impacts to the budget is $8,874. It will go down to $7,959. That will be a decrease of $915 or just about 10%. And I guess between the two items could balance on their budget. Any questions on that?
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
All right. Me neither. So let's go to the F, which is a financial services voucher list. Any questions from the board to address this morning on these voucher list items?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 4A is amendment number 2 to interlocal agreement between Thurston County and the Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis Reservation.
Yeah, thank you. This particular, the county has an agreement with the Chehalis tribe, and this is specifically related to what they call Eagle One development. That is located at the intersection of Highway 99 and State Route 12. Through this process, the Chehalis tribe has developed this property to build a motel. That was the initial agreement that we got with them. And also they have already developed the Talking Cedars Brewery and Distillery Restaurant. They opened the restaurant and is currently operating this restaurant since, I believe, 2020. And they're trying to move into the next phase, which is the brewing and distillery. Within that process is the consumptions of water and sewer needs to be part of this discussion. And at this point, it's difficult to determine what will be the consumption of those two facilities. And this local agreement established a baseline of 36 REUs that will be equivalent residential units for both water and sewer, with the understanding that by July 2025, we'll have to come back, see the history of the usage, and reestablish a new base rate. That is the context of this item for your consideration. And Tim Wilson is here to answer any questions.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions for Tim?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Tim, this approach that Ramiro described about I've seen something similar happen a lot, but I'm just wondering for our purposes, is this an approach we've taken in the past to sounds like we're guesstimating now, and then we come back at a definite time and sort of try to dial in the actuality of what the usage is?
Good morning, commissioners. Yes, it's a bit of a new approach. Previously, we've just assigned GFCs, negotiated GFCs, and the customer.
Can you say what GFC is?
GFC is a general facility charge, and it is meant to fund future capacity within a system, whether it be the water system or the sewer system. previously we have negotiated GFCs, but then there was really no mechanism to put truth to that down the road. So this is a little bit of what I would think is an improved approach to a development that is unique. So we are doing our best guess at what we think the GFC, the actual usage is going to be. And when I say our best guess, that is both the county and the tribe together. But there's also the mechanism for down the road. We're going to take a look at the actual usage and truth that up and make sure that what they've been using is what they will actually pay for. And that could mean a credit back to them, or it could mean additional charges down the road. So I think it's a good way to move forward with this particular development.
Chair, I do have a question, please.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I guess we've kicked this around a little bit about, and other study issues and stuff. When you were working this out, did you include legal in here to get review to make sure that farther down the road you didn't run into a problem because somebody had a change of mind or management changes or whatever? So are we on solid footing on that as far as you know?
Yes, absolutely. Both our legal, the county's legal, and the tribe's legal was involved in this amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Is that Travis from on our side, or
Scott Cushing?
Scott? Okay. Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Item 4B is a resolution and called for sealed bids for the Latigo, Marcus, you got to set me straight there, and Street Southeast and Chehalis Western Trail at Spurgeon Creek project.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, for your considerations to authorize Public Works to call for sealed bids to replace culverts on Spurgeon Creek along Latigo Street and the Chehalis Western Trail. This is related to the fish barrier culvert removal project the board has authorized over the last few years using real estate excise tax. REIT 2. This particular project will replace two 42-inch culverts with a 57-foot prefabricated bridge, and also will replace two additional 40-inch culverts with a 90-foot prefabricated bridge. As you heard last week, the Department of Public Works has been successful in leveraging real estate excise tax 2 funds to receive a $1.7 million grant from the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board. And Marcus is here to answer any questions. Latigo or Latigo?
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Mark Storvix, Civil Engineer with Thurston County Public Works. I prefer Latigo, but I have heard it 50-50 Latigo and Latigo. So it could be either one.
All right, so I don't sound dumb at least if I say the wrong
Yes, I would add to the county manager in that this project, we previously came in front of the board to purchase the prefabricated bridges. So that contract previously allowed us to manufacture these bridges currently, and they'll be delivered next month ahead of the contractor coming out on site.
Okay, good reminder. Thank you. Commissioner Mejia?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions about Latigo, sir.
Okay. Latigo. See, now you got me confused. All right, thank you, Marcus.
I trust that one then. I go with Latigo.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards probably knows.
Yeah.
All right. 4C is another Public Works item. It is a resolution called for sealed bids for the Gate Road Southwest Culvert Replacements Project.
Yeah, Commissioner, similar to the previous item, the department is requesting the board to authorize call for sealed bids, and this will be to replace culverts on Gate Road Southwest. at Beaver Creek and tributary of Mima Creeks. This particular project also is part of the Fish Barrier Enhancement Program the board authorized a few years ago, and will replace two 30-inch culverts with a 20-foot prefabricated bridge. And also on Mima Creek tributary, will replace one 18-inch culvert with an 8-foot prefabricated concrete box. And again, this is going to be funded by Real Estate Excise Tax 2. And I believe last week you heard from staff they're waiting to see if they have been successful in securing additional grant funding for this particular project. And I don't know if Ryan is ready to provide an update on the grant that we're waiting for or not. Ryan.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for that description. I do have an answer for you here, County Manager and Commissioners. So as a general reminder, we as a program actually search far and wide for funding opportunities and grants to help fund construction and design of our projects. And a grant was submitted, or an application, excuse me, was submitted to help fund construction from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And we hope to hear back from that within the next couple of months on our status on that grant.
Okay, thank you. So that will help supplement the real estate excise tax to you.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Ryan, is this the project that I had heard there was some concern about guardrails or something from one of the involved neighbors, or am I thinking of the right project?
Yes, you are correct. There have been discussions about that.
And what is the issue exactly, since I've got you here?
That's a good question. We get involved in discussions on real estate services and with property owners, and I'll actually defer any details of that to the design department manager, Teresa Parsons.
Teresa, do you mind?
Sure, I'll give you a high level and we can discuss it further. But essentially the property owners had purchased property out in a very rural area and are very taken with the aesthetics of that. And they don't like infrastructure that bars the aesthetic look, and they feel that guardrail is not aesthetically pleasing in that setting. So they have concerns about that.
And the determination that, I guess, follow-up question is how strict are the rules by which we determine how much guardrail to put in, or what kind of guardrail? I mean, is there flexibility and we make a choice, or is it kind of prescribed by state law, or how does that work?
There's typical criteria that's set out by several. The route guidance comes from AASHTO, I believe, which is the American Association of State and Highway Traffic Officials. Perhaps Commissioner, or excuse me, the county manager can correct me if I got that acronym wrong. However, there's also guidance set out by Washington State Department of Transportation that takes off from that. And there's sound engineering guidance out there. And so we look at that criteria and use that to make sure that our first responsibility is make sure that the traveling public is safe. And so there's some criteria we can make a judgment call on, but mostly it's fairly prescribed.
And if I may add, Scott Lindblom, County Engineer. One of the things too that it can happen, and typically does in the course of a project design, is that the early on in the process, we have a plan developed, and as we learn more information and progress in the design, kind of the normal course of project development is, there are changes that do happen as we get more information, as the design progresses. So it's part of the normal design process that you'll see changes from the early concepts through the completion of the design. And at this point, the design is near completion. And so what we've seen over the course of the past, I don't know, 6 to 12 months is, what we had on paper initially did change. And that's just normal for the course of a design as it develops.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's see. Any follow-up from the board? No, okay. Let's move on then. Item 4D is a proposal to set a public hearing for development agreement with Kaufman Holdings, Inc.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration. Is to set a public hearing for June 8th, 2021 at 3 in the afternoon or soon thereafter here at the courthouse building, Building 1, Room 280, to receive public testimony related to a development agreement with Kaufman Holdings. This particular effort has been in the works for, I'll say, a little over 2 years. And we have been leveraging the public, private, and state and Chehalis Tribe partnership to help us build infrastructure on the Grand Mountain area. For this particular case is to construct a runabout on Highway State Route 12 in Sargent Road. And that serves as a key access for future development. And that is the reason why the Kaufman Holdings has come to the table and see an opportunity to participate on this particular project ahead of their particular development. And the reason that I'm saying ahead of this particular development, under normal circumstances, any developer who likes to develop in the county, they need to pay traffic impact fees. Knowing that perhaps the Kaufman Holdings are not yet at that point of determining what type of development will be, we have worked with them to have a somewhat of a baseline as to what those potential traffic impact fees will be. And that is the gist of this development agreement. They will upfront money to help us build this county road infrastructure. Also, you approve early in the year an amendment to the another one you're considering today, a couple of weeks ago, with the Chehalis Tribe, where also the Chehalis Tribe is contributing financially to build this infrastructure. Teresa is here to answer any additional questions, perhaps something that I missed.
Anything, Teresa, up front?
The only thing I want to add is that this agreement also allows the Kaufmans to vest in the current land use code for arterial commercial for 10 years from the date of the agreement.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, questions for Teresa?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep, me neither. I'm seeing this from my notes last week. Okay, great. Then we'll go to 5A, Superior Court, toxicology contract with Cordant Healthcare Solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Superior Court is requesting for you to consider awarding the contract to Cordant Healthcare Solutions. The courts went and issued a request for proposal that was released on February 19, 2021, and the proposals were due on March 19th. They received 3 proposals, and the Cordant Healthcare Solutions was the low bidder that provides the services the Superior Court needs. This particular service provides toxicology services for all Thurston County Superior Court programs, as well as District Court, Mental Health Veterans Court, and Pretrial Services Diversion Program. The toxicology services provide through this contract will be reimbursed on a fee-based basis for those who need those services. And that's how the contract is proposed for your consideration. This has a maximum of $150,000 and goes from the term of April 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2022. That will be a 1-year term. If you have any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Mejia,
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. Is this the group that we're using now?
Yeah, I believe it's, yeah, they have.
This is a continuation of
Well, it's a continuation with the same firm, but because they went through a request for proposal, it's a new contract.
Sure. Yeah, okay, but same firm. So they got a history here. Thank you.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, item 6A is letter of intent for the Atrium 3000 Pacific.
Yeah, you discussed this item in a couple of occasions, Commissioner. This was on your agenda last Tuesday. And Commissioner Mejia requested the board, and the board agreed to delay this until this week. And this particular item is for your consideration is to approve a letter of intent with MJR Development, which is the owner of the 3000 Pacific Avenue building. This is, which has approximately 90,000 square feet. This letter of intent outlines the building characteristics, the proximity, the use, when we expect to begin the lease, as stated for a beginning of 7-year lease and with options to extend to the 5 years, includes the base rental rate, as well as additional, what we call the triple net, which is included on the attachment as well. This is related to the plan of moving some offices and departments out of the courthouse building complex and into the 3000 building. As a result, we're going to be able to open up space here at the courthouse building, and where offices and departments will move as well to create well-needed additional space for their expansion and even to meet the current needs. The result of that, the 3000 building will be the general government building, and the courthouse will be the Law and Justice Center. You have discussed this in many occasions. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
So real quick, I don't know where Commissioner Mejia is at, and I'll ask her in just a moment, but in case it helps the board for time management purposes, I'm going to request another week on this based on some additional information that I want to sit down with the county manager, and I haven't had a chance to do that. So that's where I'm at. But Commissioner Mejia, you requested additional time as well last week. So where are you?
I was able to ask my questions that I needed from Elizabeth, but if you need another week, that's okay with me.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. I do have some questions about this. Roughly, we're talking about a commitment of, I don't know, I've heard $30 million kicked around, $25–30 million over the next 7 years by the time the lease and the upgrades and the move and everything. Is there a number associated with that? Is that a fair number to utilize? Because it follows into my next question. So I guess that's the county manager. How much money are we talking about committing if we do this?
So
over the next 7 years.
So the plan includes a $7 million from the real estate excise tax one for tenant improvements, and also includes an additional lease of $1.6 million for the next 10 years. Go ahead, Robin. You're muted.
It's 1.6 million each year for the next 7 years.
7 years, thank you.
Right. So the total, including 1.6 million a year in rent and triple N, plus the 7 million in REIT, is 18.2 million.
Okay, the triple N, is that included in there? You say, so it's 1.6 million a year, and then add in the triple N?
No.
No.
That includes the triple N?
Inclusive, yeah.
Okay.
But
so,
if I may, Commissioner, this is an additional, is 1.6 additional lease from what we currently pay here. Is that correct, Robin?
Right, it's a new expense to the general fund, yes.
Thank you.
As you saw in the financial plan.
Yeah, okay, so it's closer to 20 million than 30 million, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, so I've also heard about, in different discussions that we've had, that there is available through the bonding process for the remodel up here, there's a total of possibly $50 million, and is that over like a 30-year bond or a 20-year bond, or what would that be?
Yeah, that's a 30-year bond.
A 30-year bond. So does the 20 million, does that kind of end up coming out of that 50? So we would only have 30 million for the remodel, or we're going to have the full 50 for the remodel?
You'll have the full 50 for the remodel.
Okay. Then this kind of is an issue that I mentioned it earlier this morning, and it has to do with whether or not we have legal advice. And because of what we're doing and the amount of money that we're dealing with, well over 50 million, maybe $100 million by the time you include the health department and the county in total of CARES money that is coming in over the next few years. And what we got before this round. So the first round of CARES money came out. And this goes back to those 3 county commissioners in Eastern Washington that were removed from office by the Superior Court over there, having to do with an expenditure that was not appropriate. Now, I don't know the facts of the case, but my concern is that I would guess they tried to do the right thing, but the right thing ended up being the wrong thing. And so they were actually removed from office. And what happens to a commissioner when they have to face that type of a scenario kind of depends on what kind of a judge they draw, on whether it's an activist judge, maybe you could say, or not. And I'll use the sheriff's situation a year ago. He ended up having a judge that said, oh no, you got to stand, you have to stand for recall. I guess his wasn't a removal at that point in time, although it could have been. And then that was appealed to the Washington State Supreme Court, and in a 9-0 ruling in favor of the sheriff, the court put some common sense in place and said, oh no, that judge is completely wrong. You don't have to stand for recall. So what I'm trying to use as an example is that scenario as an example. Those 3 commissioners being removed, the sheriff, there was an attempt to be removed, and we had a county commissioner at the time that was, I don't know, the charges weren't sustainable or something. I mean, the judge stuck up on that deal, did the right thing, okay? So what I'm getting at is when we make decisions like this, they are so technical, and I just don't see why we can't have legal here. And now it sounds like we're going to extend this for another week, so I hope we'll be able to do that, to have legal completely review things that then they can say to us, oh, this expenditure, because I can't help but think those 3 commissioners in Eastern Washington ran it by legal. They were talking about some millions of dollars, and they got some bum advice maybe. I don't know the answer, but I don't want to be one of those commissioners that votes to do something with good intentions without having the luxury of legal advice, because that does give you some protection. To what extent, I really don't know. But apparently, that does give you some protection, so you're not on the hook, so to speak, all by yourself out there. That if you make a decision, and that decision is later deemed to be wrong, I mean, you know, the county lost $16 million back in 14 or 15, I think it was, by the time it was all done. And I'm sure the commissioners of the day felt they were doing something right. but they ended up doing something wrong. So not only do I not want to cost the taxpayers anything, I don't want to face legal jeopardy myself. So that brings me back to that issue that I brought up this morning. And basically, this is an addition that was added on, I guess, recently. I know we talked about delaying it for a while, but okay, now it's being delayed again. So I'm always concerned that we do the right thing and the legal thing. But sometimes those things run into conflict with each other, it sounds like. And that's where I'm at on the legal. So that's why I don't understand why we can't always have legal. I've heard legal say when I've asked, well, I can't give legal advice, you know, spur of the moment legal advice. Okay, maybe they can't, but why can't legal review things so that they can? So that's another good reason that everything that we make decisions on should come before us maybe a week ahead of time. I don't know how long it takes legal to review things, but right now we're trying to get things a few days ahead of time, and I commend staff for trying to get that done. But there are other issues out there, and I don't see, unless we have a real emergency issue, why we can't know things well ahead of time. Many legal bodies get all their information well ahead of time. And that's kind of what I'm looking for here, is to get all of our information whenever possible, as early as possible. And those things that are in question, and maybe I might say to legal counsel if they were here, hey, have you reviewed this? Is everything on the up and up? 6 months ago or so, I walked out of a meeting because legal counsel said in the meeting, well, I think it's illegal. Well, geez, I don't want to participate in something even that I think. That's not very definite to me. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I guess this is a democratic process, and my seatmates, at least one of them, has to agree with me before this can move forward. So that's kind of my concern on this and many other things. I know we were going to talk about this later on in the commissioner's items, but it is applicable to this thing too. So thank you.
Ramiro, before I call on you, I just want to respond that we have a meeting with the prosecutor's office on Thursday morning. It might be a topic we could talk about at that point. Sounds like there's concurrence for my proposal to move this item for 1 week. And with that, I'll go to the county manager.
Yeah, thank you. The item that you saw this morning in the agenda, it was on the agenda for last week, and it was the same action that you're taking right now to delay for a week. So this is not a new item that we're trying to surprise the board. You have been discussing this item for many occasions. As Commissioner Mejia stated, I do have a legal opinion from Melissa related to this letter of intent, and I can share that with you. Obviously, I cannot distribute it because I have to respect her perspective and the perspective of the attorneys. But I can certainly share a hard copy of you what she perceives to be the letter of intent that you're considering next week.
Very good. Okay. Well, let's move on as far as getting to the agenda. The next item is 6B, Commissioners reporting on board work sessions. 6C is the county manager reviewing schedule, and then we'll adjourn. Let's get a head start before we take a recess this morning. Let's get a head start on next week's agenda. Starting with 2 p.m. calling the meeting to order. Commissioner Mejia will lead a pledge of allegiance. We'll consider the agenda and board meeting minutes from today. Another presentation from Public Works regarding Reeder Road Bridge at Beaver Creek project completion. Scott Lindblom, your county engineer.
Thank you, commissioners, for you will receive an outline of the Reeder Road Bridge at Beaver Creek completion. It will be give an opportunity as to hear from your county engineer the success on delivering this project. Scott.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Scott Lindblom, County Engineer again. And the last time we came to you with direction or request on this item was August of last year, when we requested permission to award a contract to replace the county's only structurally deficient bridge. We've recently completed that project, so what I'd like to do is just kind of wrap up with you, show you some pictures of what was recently completed, and just really tout the achievement that we've been able to do, knocking this really critical bridge replacement off our list.
Okay, sounds good, Scott. Look forward to seeing that. Any questions from commissioners for Scott?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Opportunity for the public to address the board and the county manager's update. I assume there's nothing to report at this time. So we'll go to consent agenda. Item 3A and 3B are tax title sales. I'll turn this to county manager for a presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Before I get into your items, there will be a new item that will be added to your agenda next week, and there will be for your consideration to authorize a temporary position to help us deliver the racial equity effort the board passed early in the year. I'm working on the details, and you will see that position and that request in your next week's agenda. And that particular position will have an end date of December 31st, 2022, just to give you the preempt of that. Related to the item 3A, this is an ongoing effort by the Treasurer's Office to surplus properties. They have gone through in tax title. This particular property is located at the intersection of Main Street and 11th Street Southeast in Bucota, within the city limits of Bucota. And for your consideration is for you to authorize the Treasurer's Office to have a private negotiation with an individual who's interested on this. This particular property has been in tax title since 2018, and going through the foreclosure auction, we did not receive any requests. This property is at 0.17 acres, and it is anticipated to sell for just about $1,863.50. That includes all the fees associated with this transaction. What will be in terms of impacts to the general fund, it will be just about $17.02 a year. This particular property is prone to flooding. It has a lot of flooding history and has deemed unbuildable at this point. County Treasurer Jeff Godman is here to answer any questions you may have related to this request.
Jeff, anything up front?
Thank you very much for your time this morning and in our continuing march to divest ourselves of these tax title properties, get them back on the tax rolls. This particular property is entirely within flood zone A. And Eric did talk to the building official in Bucota. And the challenge of any developing on this is that any sewage, on-site sewage, would have to be pumped away from flood zone A and outside of the buffer zone that flood zone A has. So it is going to be prohibitively expensive to build anything on this property.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions on this one?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, again, what was the price you were thinking about on this, Jeff?
I think, is this one 1,600?
Yeah, this is, the price is $1,863.50, is 0.7 acres.
Yeah.
And the town of Bucota, they're not interested in somehow ending up with this, maybe for park or parking or anything that you're aware of?
They have not expressed an interest, no.
Is this time sensitive?
Only that we want, because the applicant applied to obtain this property just to get that resolved for his benefit.
Do you know, is the applicant maybe an adjoining property owner or anything about that issue?
He is not. Because that was my first thought.
Yeah, okay. Is there any reason you couldn't give us a week on this above what I know this is for next week, but is there any reason for that it would hurt to have a delay for a week just to talk to a few folks?
I mean, no, I don't think it would hurt to delay it for a week. I just need to know what information you're looking for.
Well, I think I'm gonna drive through there.
Okay.
I just like to check with folks. I don't know. I'm always trying to get the best deal for the county if we're going to end up getting something, but I also want to make sure I treat citizens, maybe a neighboring property owner is interested but just hasn't paid attention, so he doesn't know anything about it or something. I don't know yet, but it's an unusual situation, I guess. It's a building lot size, but because of the flood zone or something, it's not attainable. I don't know, build something on stilts or something. I really don't know the answer to it, but I'd like to take a look at it.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's never been any development on this particular lot. And it's been subject, the Skookumchuck River comes up pretty regular out there.
Yeah.
And so it's been underwater pretty regular.
The map that I'm looking at, it's South Main Street and 11th Street there at that intersection. Is that an alley that goes by that lot? Is that what that's showing as an alley?
You mean on the opposite end of the lot from Main Street?
Yes.
Yeah, that is an alley that was designated in the original plat. I think that might be the Seatco plat.
But it's not developed.
It's not developed. No, there's no road there.
Yeah. It's not improved. It's just an easement, yeah. So could I suggest, Commissioner, if, just keep this on the agenda. If Commissioner Edwards needs additional time beyond next Tuesday, then you can have that discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll be more than happy to give him that time if he needs it next week. We'll check back in.
Right.
Yeah, just let me know if you need me to check on anything, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for all your efforts continuing to get the county divested of all of these properties and get them back on the tax rolls. So I really appreciate your efforts there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a second tax title property.
Yeah, and similar to the previous one, in terms of the tax title, and for your consideration is to authorize the assessor's office to enter into private negotiation. And this particular property is located in Yelm. The size of this property is 0.23 acres, and the proposed sale price is $1,763.50. And also, this particular property is prone to flooding and has been considered to be unbuildable. Any additional conversation on that?
Yeah, this was part of the Nisqually Pines neighborhood that was underwater several times. And during the 1996 flood, it was under 3 feet of water. And in the packet, there's a letter from Senior Plans Examiner Joe Butler from 1998. There's a sentence there that says that due to the critical areas ordinance and the shoreline master plan, that no residential development can occur on this lot.
Shoreline master plan, what's the body of water involved?
Nisqually River.
And that's where on this map?
So it's not on the map, and I can certainly get you a better map. So Actually, if you look at the map that you've got in the very upper right corner,
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's a lighter color, that's the edge of the river.
But there's houses, there's like 6 houses between that lot and the river.
And if you do a floodway overlay on this map, it bypasses those houses and covers this lot and most of them that are next to it.
Interesting. Okay. Commissioner Mejia, anything on this particular item?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, the same concerns, I guess, that I had on the other one. I just want to make sure that everything is good. I appreciate Jeff pushing on all these, but I don't know why an adjoining maybe property owner or something there might be more interested, you know.
I don't know that. I know, and I'm not sure what all of the amenities in Nisqually Pines are, but what I've seen over my years in the assessor's office is a lot of times in these subdivisions, there's parks or beach access or something that comes with lot ownership and being a member of the association. And so you actually see a lot of this in Evergreen Shores, where properties absolutely are not buildable because of soil conditions and the water table, but they get access to a fabulous waterfront park. And so a lot of times people will buy these unbuildable lots because they can get them for cheap, but by the benefit of ownership, they get the benefits of being a part of that neighborhood association.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the motivation in this case. I'm just letting you know some observational things that I've had over time.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm gonna probably have the say, and that's gonna be an easier one to look at than the other one, so maybe the week will work, but.
So would the same suggestion apply on this, commissioners? Just leave it on the agenda. If Commissioner Edwards needs additional time beyond next Tuesday, then you will have a conversation on that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you,
All
Jay.
right, thank you. You guys have a good Tuesday.
It's 10:25. I'm going to break for 10 minutes.
Yep.
And we'll reconvene at 10:35.
Thank you. In 3, 2, 1, go ahead, sir. Excuse me.
Okay, we're back in session for the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session, Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. It's 10:36 a.m. And we picked up, we're in agenda item number 4, which is reviewing proposed agenda for next Tuesday. We are midway through that agenda on item 3, looks like 3C.
3C, yeah.
And that is a human resources item, civil service resolution for Bureau Staff Assistant and Sheriff's Office Systems Administrator.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. The Civil Service Commission has been working to revise some of the positions within the Sheriff's Office to better align to the current job requirements. For your proposal, for your consideration is the proposal to revise the Bureau Staff Assistant and Sheriff System Administrative classifications. Those classifications do not change the salary. It's just changing the job description, again, to better align to what the staff within the Sheriff's Office is currently performing. Wayne Jones from HR is available if you have any additional questions related to this item.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions on this item?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks for being here, Wayne. I have no questions either. Let's go to 3D. Clerk, reclassifying position 05R00145.
Yeah, this request from the clerk's office for your consideration is to reclassify the business applications technician 2 to a business applications analyst. This race classification really is going to be addressing the needs of the clerk's office to provide technical expertise on a specific software and hardware applications, which includes Odyssey. This particular proposal changed the budget from $6,325 per month to $7,687 per month. That will be an increase of $1,363 a month, a 22% increase. At this point, the clerk's office is stating that they will be able to absorb this increase in 2021 with salary savings. But as you know, this action will increase their budget for next year. And also, when I mentioned to you the impacts of the position itself, I give you the high range of those positions just to give the ultimate impact. They may not be hiring those individuals to the high level step on those classifications. Any questions?
Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's go to 3E, Auditor Financial Service Voucher List. The board will have a chance to review that. The dollar amount will be filled in prior to next week's review. And we'll ask questions if we have them and take them up next week. So that takes us to item 4, department items, human resources. 4A is a request for proposal for classification, compensation, and recruitment studies.
Yes, for your consideration, Commissioners, this is for you to authorize Maria Ponte, Director of Human Resources, to issue a request for proposals to secure the consultant to help us go through the classification and compensation recruitment study. As you may recall, this has been an ongoing item. The HR is tasked to do. However, really, there is not enough capacity at this point to continue with this large project, which most likely will take a span of between 4 and 5 years. There's so many different classifications in the county. They need a comprehensive assessment, as well as a comprehensive assessment of the comparable counties or jurisdictions. So, and this is the intent, to help us go through this process and secure the consultants to help us navigate and make this as I believe, at a highest priority in human resources. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. If I don't have the answers, I'll make sure that I'll bring those back to you next week.
Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
So Ramiro, I missed what you said. You said 4 to 5. You said this process will take 4 to 5. I didn't catch what you.
4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years.
Yeah, because is one thing is going through the study, and then the implementation aspect of that is going to take a little while. There's a lot of positions and classifications. Although what I'm saying, 4 to 5 years to the completion of that, will be implemented in phases. That may be a better way to state this. So I'm not expecting there will be everything waiting until 4 or 5 years span. Will be implemented in phases.
Chair, I do have a question, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
The dollar amount that this is going to be, just do you have a rough idea?
That is the intent of for the request for proposals to have an understanding of the budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe just one other thing. I don't know the dollar amount. When this happens, will we spread the cost of this particular action around to not just the general fund? So, I mean, if they're going to be talking about folks in a protected area, health department, maybe roads, I don't know what they're all going to be covering, but at least so the general fund doesn't have to pay for analyzing this situation.
You want to take that, Robin?
Could you repeat that, please? What is your question?
Okay, my question is, we're going to expend some money here, it looks like, because making me nervous saying it's going to take 4 or 5 years to implement it, and it probably would. I mean, we've got a lot of things to cover if we do it right. But if we do it right, rather than the general fund paying for this, if we have protected funds somewhere along the line, can this be apportioned out to those other funds?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. The cost of this contract will be allocated in the same way that other personnel type costs are allocated to all county funds as appropriate.
Okay. Any chance when this thing comes up that it'll show that? Because that'll go on for some years, you know, just so it's mentioned. We might all be gone before it gets finished. Anyway.
Just by virtue of where it's paid, it will automatically go into the allocation plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards just covered all my questions. So let's go to 5A. Public Health and Social Services, Department of Ecology, Local Solid Waste Financial Assistance Agreement, Amendment Number 1.
For your consideration, Commissioners, is to amend the current agreement to include an additional $18,000 for this particular contract, which is from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2021. The purpose of this agreement is to support the solid waste program, permitting inspections and solid waste enforcement. The public health is currently doing. There requires a match, and the match is generated by the tipping fees, and so this is a request to add additional dollars. Art Star is here to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Mejia?
So Ramiro, you said $18,000.
Yes, and that will bring to the total cost of this project to 187. This contract, this agreement, $187,494.
I'm not sure. Could the motion show that $18,000?
Yeah, we can certainly add that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Maybe this is selfish on my part because I might have to read this motion if we get to it. Is that an acronym? Should that be explained? You know, the SWMSLWFA for the public's information, if they should view it, what does all that mean? So, I mean, is it just taking the words and condensing them into letters? Is that what it's doing?
This is Art Story, and Commissioner Edwards, that's actually the name of the contract. Yeah. That's the Department of Ecology puts on there. So,
okay.
And I believe it is sort of an acronym. If you were ecology, you would know exactly what that means, but that is what the name of the contract is.
Okay, well, maybe I can state that's a bureaucratic contract authorization, so people nobody else will know what it is except the people involved in it. That's fine. I just want to make sure. I like to keep the public informed, so thank you, Art.
Okay. And I'll amend the action to make it clear that that we're adding $18,000.
Okay, then let's go to 6A, Public Works Interlocal
Thank
Agreement.
you. And just to let you know, what's happening is at the end of the year, the biennium, so there's sometimes extra money available. So ecology makes it available to different departments, and we're fortunate enough to receive this, which is why it's being added. And there's another contract that'll be coming to you soon that does the same thing for another funding source. So
excellent.
The fortunate beneficiaries.
Okay,
thanks, Art.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go to Public Works Interlocal Agreement with City of Olympia for 2021 Thurston County Solid Waste Management Plan and Hazardous Waste Plan updates.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration is to execute the interlocal agreement with the City of Olympia. This is the continuation of the efforts for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and the development of the Solid Waste Management Plan. This is just start aligning to some of the elements in the 2021 Solid Waste Management Plan, which incorporates the flow control ordinance within the City of Olympia, among many other elements related to the solid waste disposal by the City of Olympia. This is one of the first interlocal agreements that you will see related to this particular aspect. All the other jurisdictions are considering individual interlocal agreements dealing with the flow control. And I believe we have also reached out somewhat of a tentative agreement with the City of Bucota. And I know the other two, the bigger jurisdictions are considering doing that as well. Karen Weiss is here to elaborate on this particular item.
Thank you, Romero. I think you explained it very well. I would just say this is the first of 7 that you will see from the participating cities that will come through. In fact, I have one from the City of Rainier that just came in in the last day or so that we'll be forwarding to the board. As Romero mentioned, we have done outreach to all of the cities that participate in our solid waste management plan as a part of the cooperative planning required by RCW. And so those agreements are all in various stages of being executed. We've made several presentations to city councils and are working with the legal team to finish off those, the ILAs. And just to kind of close the loop on this, once all of those ILAs are executed with the participating cities, then the solid waste management plan itself will come back to the board for final adoption before getting a final blessing by the Department of Ecology. So quite a process, a lot of effort put in over the last year to get us this far. So with that, if there are questions.
Commissioner Mejia, questions on this?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
I do not either. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
7A is County Manager item, specifically setting a public hearing on Amendment 1 of the 2021 budget.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. This is a follow-up to the preliminary decisions that you made related to the budget amendment number 1 for the 2021 operating capital budgets for the county. This particular proposal is for you to set a public hearing for Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021 at 3 in the afternoon. Just to give you a perspective on this, it is not a requirement for you to hold a public hearings on budget amendments, although you are required to make it available to the public. In this particular case, since as part of the amendment, we need to amend the capital facilities plan to include the atrium project. That requires a public hearing. It was just trying to have back-to-back public hearings for you to hear public testimony on both on the capital facilities plan as well as the budget amendment. This is only for the budget amendment number 1 public hearing. The capital facilities plan will come to you at a later date. Robin?
Questions on this from the board?
No, sir.
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Then we've got reporting on work sessions, reviewing our schedule, adjourning, and then going straight into a public hearing. It's a CPED item, renewal of interim emergency housing ordinance. I see Leah Davis is online. I don't think we need an elaborate history because we've seen this item numerous times. So County Manager, anything that we need to address here?
Yeah, I think you stated correctly. You have the board has reviewed this item on many occasions. This for your consideration. This item is for you to receive public testimony on you considering extending the current interim emergency housing ordinance through December 9, 2021. This is extending the interim ordinance, not to be confused with the docketed item that you have already approved. They will consider to have a permanent item if the board decides to take that action. So this is just extending the current interim emergency housing ordinance. For your consideration next week is two items. Move to close the public hearing, and depending on the public testimony, you may consider taking an action to approve the ordinance if that is the desire of the board.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, I don't either. Thank you, Leah. All right. So going back to our agenda for this morning, we're at item 5, proclamations and awards. Clerk of the board, Amy Davis.
Good morning, Amy Davis. The only proclamation included is for Public Works Week, and we will have the LGBTQ proclamation for review next week.
Questions from board members on proclamations?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Item 7, PIO check-in. No, I'm sorry. It's item 6, advisory boards and commissions.
Thank you. There are 3 applications included in your packet. Each are for the Agriculture Advisory Committee and are from Carrie Penn as a non-farmer, Jessica Honecker as a non-farmer, and Mercy Karyoku McGee as a farmer. There are currently 2 vacant seats, a farmer position and a non-farmer position, and one that is up for reappointment, also a non-farmer position. So the bylaws of the Ag Committee state that when circumstances permit, the committee will review the applications prior to appointment by the board. So with that, I plan to distribute these applications to the staff member and chair of the Ag Committee, and am happy to request these be reviewed at their next meeting so we can receive their recommendation in a timely manner. And the applications are included in here also for your review. And I'm happy to distribute the committee's bylaws as well for reference if that helps.
Okay, well, I don't have any problem with that. Commissioner Mejia?
I do not.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess my only question is we had one on hold that was a reappointment.
Yes.
Where are we at on that one?
I believe you wanted to wait to see if there are any additional applicants, but really it's up to the board. We'd like to bring this item for a formal decision anytime that you see fit. I think it's for Ms. McClure.
Yes.
Yeah, reappointment.
Yes.
So really, whatever direction the board would like to provide us, we'll follow.
I guess at last week's meeting, I believe the chair said he wanted to delay for something, but I'm not sure of that. I was ready to appoint on that.
So I don't recall exactly where we landed last week. I know that I had concerns. Part of my thinking, though, is that we didn't have any other applicants, and now we do. And the Agriculture Advisory Committee can weigh in on that according to their own bylaws, which I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to have that go forward. So I think I would feel more comfortable waiting, especially because I got additional input that since last week I got additional input that reappointment person might not still want to be reappointed. So we need, Amy, I guess I would ask you to reach back out to Ms. McClure and confirm that she wants to be reappointed, and then we can take that information along with whatever the Agriculture Advisory Committee weighs in with these new applicants and make a decision. If that's my preference,
Okay.
but Commissioner Mejia, where are you at?
Yeah, it was my understanding from last week that both you and Commissioner Edwards wanted to wait until the Agriculture Advisory Committee made a decision, and not made a decision, but just gave their opinion on Ms. McClure's reappointment. And seeing that we have new applicants, I think it's a good time for them to consider those as well.
You just reminded me, yeah, it was that we had gotten input from the chair, but there was a question of whether that was the committee as a whole. And so I think the board directed that we asked the committee as a whole to weigh in on the reappointment. So thank you for reminding me of that. That's where we landed last week.
So I do know that an email was sent out from the chair to the committee requesting the information as the board directed. They received a response from each committee member except for one. So I'm just waiting to receive that all of the responses compiled, and I will bring that next week as well, along with their other. Go ahead, Romero.
Question, sir?
Go ahead, Commissioner, County Manager.
I don't need an upgrade.
No,
I'm not sure it's an upgrade.
Do you know if any of the new applications are for the seat that Ms. McClure is seeking reappointment?
Not for that specific seat, but there are there are 2 vacant seats at the moment, a farmer position and a non-farmer position, and Ms. McClure's position that is up for reappointment, which is also a non-farmer position.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll revisit this. Do you know when the next Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting is?
I believe it's Thursday.
Oh, okay, great. Well, then we might know something next week.
Yes.
Perfect. And that's it for the advisory boards and commissions, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Then we'll go to item 7, PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I don't have any updates this morning.
Okay. Any questions for Megan?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Legislative update, item 8.
I really don't have any specific update. However, in next couple of weeks, I will ask Deborah Mangia to come and join us in one of these meetings just to give her the opportunity to give you a perspective of the legislative session, how it went, and maybe start looking into the future legislative session. So that's my update on that.
Great. Sounds like a good idea. Okay, proposed annexation is the only item under briefing, public hearings, decisions pending. Item 9, Capital City Estates / Chambers Estates.
Yeah, Commissioner, this is a follow-up to the conversation that you've had now on a couple of occasions related to a proposed annexation by the city of Lacey that includes the Capital City Golf Course as well as the Chamber Estates. And you have many conversations related to this particular request. I don't know if you want me to go through and revisit every single item that you discussed. You have some members of a couple members from Chamber Estates arguing that perhaps they do not want to be part of this this annexation. The options the board has is to invoke jurisdiction, to request the Boundary Review Board to revise the initial boundaries of annexation proposed by the City of Lacey to exclude the Chamber Estates. Also, you heard that on those terms, it will be good to have a good argument from the board, if that is the board's direction, to move forward on invoking jurisdiction to exclude this area. You also heard from Jeremy last week, which is present today, give you a good background in terms of the annexations and the options included. Also, he outlined the property owners have the option to request the Boundary Review Board on their own to revise the boundaries proposed by the City of Lacey to exclude this area. So at this point, I will ask the board to, give us some perspective. And the question before you is, I'm sure if you have additional questions, here we are to answer any questions you may have. But the decision that I will ask the board today is whether or not you like to invoke jurisdiction. If the board decides to invoke jurisdiction, then the next piece of the conversation will be, what will be the arguments the board would like to add on that letter for us to prepare for your consideration?
Okay, so I'm just going to start and ask if the board members, start with Commissioner Mejia, any questions to be answered, and then we can, I guess, get into the position that the members want to take. But any questions as far as information missing, Commissioner Mejia?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. We never did hear what the tax revenue effect would be on the total package of loss, basically, to the county coffers. So that would, as those residences move into the city of Lacey, not only the road tax and other general fund collection of taxes that takes place that benefits the county, but the sales tax issue is going to be quite a large amount of money. And the reason I say that, I think we were up almost 20% in sales tax, and that has a lot to do with point in time and when those items that are purchased are delivered outside of the city of Lacey. They'll now be inside the city of Lacey. So do we have any new information on the total tax hit that this might be creating for the general fund? That's one question, but I'll wait for an answer on that. Then I have another.
So I think, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Josh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as we discussed when you asked that question in the previous conversation, part of those calculations would be, actually all those calculations would be done if the board decides to invoke jurisdiction. We'd look more deeply into the full boat of the analysis of costs and taxes, including all the services that are provided by the Sheriff's Department, all of the public works services, as well as the revenue. In terms of the revenue question, I would hand it over to the Assistant County Manager if she'd like to provide more detail.
So we've not done that research at this time, but we certainly could. And to have an estimate on the impact of sales tax, we'll need to work with the Department of Revenue at the state. So that will not be a quick turnaround.
Okay, then could I do a follow-up, sir?
Absolutely.
Then, as we move forward, are these annexations automatically together? Or do we have the option to oppose one of the areas, which is completely separate from the golf course, although it's included by Lacey in their 60% annexation, and that is Chambers Estates? Are we going to vote on one or both at the same time, and then we need to make a decision on how we're going to split them up? How's that going to happen?
Commissioner, is one of the same. Meaning if the board wants to invoke jurisdiction, invoking jurisdiction is to request the Boundary Review Board to remove Chamber Estates from this proposed annexation. So it's one of the same.
Well, you could oppose all of the annexation, right?
Well, yeah, you could, but I would assume the issue was Chamber Estates, not necessarily the Capitol golf course. But if that has changed, then yeah, you're right. You can oppose everything.
Oh, okay. I guess as a follow-up to that, I think the Growth Management Act is kind of, we're following it along. That annexation should go through, and the 60% is readily applicable to the golf course folks. But I look at it as if the 50 lots that are on the other side that have nothing to do with the golf course, that was kind of deceitful on the city's part in lumping those together. So they ended up with 60% because they got some kind of a power attorney thing for free septic hookup. That's how they got them to sign off over at Capital City Estates. So one group is getting a benefit and another group is not getting a benefit. And so I want to oppose the annexation on the Chambers Estate portion. That's, I realize that it looks like it's pretty much a done deal that's been maneuvered for a lot of different reasons, some good, some bad probably, on Capital City Estates. But I am concerned about lumping in Chambers Estates. That's where I'm at on this.
Okay. Well, again, I don't, deceitful, if Lacey once Lacey decided it was going to annex Chambers or Capital Golf Course, whatever, Capital City Estates, by state parameters in our own express policies, they could not leave Chambers Estates alone. And if they did, the Boundary Review Board would likely include them anyway. So it'd be a futile exercise. So how that equates to deceitful by the city of Lacey, I'm just complete disconnect for me. But that's kind of beside the point. I certainly appreciate how this process has created, something that goes against the will of a certain subgroup, but the process has played out in a very straightforward, transparent way, in a sense. I mean, and I don't know that us invoking jurisdiction is going to change the result for those citizens anyway. So, and then we would be completely going back against the express principles that we've been working on for a number of years with Lacey, Tumwater, Limpy, into how we manage annexation processes going forward. So I do not support invoking jurisdiction under all of these circumstances. Commissioner Mejia, where are you at? Sounds like you're the deciding vote.
One of the main things we have to really think about is how can we be consistent? And I spoke many times to the Chamber Estates residents, and I hear where they're coming from, but it just doesn't seem to fall under the guidelines that the county has set to invoke jurisdiction. And so my vote is going to be not to invoke jurisdiction, but I would like, if possible, if county staff can send these residents kind of like a process of how they can go to the board and request and have their voices heard in that way. I just don't see how the county being what they provided as reasons to be enough for us to invoke it at this time.
I would ask Jeremy or Josh to comment on that. After last week's meeting where I learned about that, I started to prepare something for those folks. And then I kind of talked myself out of it because I didn't want to get out on a limb that I wasn't comfortable with. But I certainly would support if there was a way for the county to give some basic information to that neighborhood as to how they could invoke the process themselves as you outlined last week. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yes, so I'll jump in real quick, Jeremy. So Jeremy has put together bullet points of the basic information, and we can provide that to the commissioners that outlines not necessarily the process on who you're talking to, but just some high-level guidance in how the 5% registered voter method works. And the second one is the property owner by 5% valuation method. So it's got some context in there, but for the county staff to reach out to the citizens of Chambers Estates, I think is something that we would shy away from. But we have that information and we can provide it to the commissioners for you to provide it well.
County Manager, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, so first of all, confirming on the vote 2-1, the board decided not to invoke jurisdiction. So no additional items in that regard is needed. Related to the additional information, please send those to me, and I will reach out to the main contact of the you have been in touch with. And we'll have to craft, this is informational, because we will not be suggesting for them to take a particular action, because that will not be part of our purview to encourage any groups to exercise that. So we'll provide that informational. I will send that via email under my name. So, and we'll close that.
And if we're, sounds like we are doing that, but I was gonna say, if we're doing that, time is of the essence for those folks. So,
Yeah. So as soon as I get the informational, I will send this, that email this week. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item 10, sub 1, HCP economic analysis discussion item. Jennifer Davis is here and Josh Thomas.
This item for your commission is informational at this point. It's just, Jennifer's going to walk you through this related to the economic study related to the habitat conservation plan. There's a lot of moving pieces related to this, and this is one of the key elements, I believe, the board needs to have a good understanding before we start sharing this with the community and the stakeholders. So I wanted to give you a preview of this. Jennifer, Josh?
So I'll jump in real quick. Thank you. The county manager is right on in terms of many moving pieces with the HCP. So as things pop up, we're going to want to come to you just like this to provide updates on all of the items related to the HCP as it works through the process this year. Hopefully, as we're planning, leading to the ITP, the incidental take permit, in early 2022, which is when we can actually start issuing permits to citizens to provide relief for the federally mandated gopher review process or preservation. So just know that we're going to be coming to you on Tuesday mornings with these quick little updates. We'll accept any conversation, but this is that step. When you hear it, we're hoping that you hear it first, and then we're going to echo this out into the community. So it's this is the outreach process that we planned on, and so now we're implementing it, and here we go.
Sure, Jennifer Davis, CPED. So last year, the board approved an RFP for contracting out an economic study of the HCP. So specifically looking at questions around how would having and implementing a habitat conservation plan in Thurston County impact our local economy, our ability for folks to develop properties compared to having no HCP. We wanted to put some numbers and analysis to this question. So using federal HCP grant funds, so this was grant funded, not general funded work. Our HCP lead, Chris Chapeau, contracted out with Eco Northwest to conduct this economic study. And it's posted on our HCP website now. There's a handy executive summary as well as the longer report. And it includes a variety of economic analysis data and interviews with local residents, including some of the folks you're familiar with who have been affected by these species listings and have been pursuing their own independent HCP or just holding off on doing their projects. Because of the lack of a county-wide HCP providing them that umbrella coverage that we're looking to do. So the final report concludes, just to jump to the conclusions, that the county having an HCP, once it's approved, this will reduce the overall cost of Endangered Species Act compliance for affected landowners. It's going to make many more parcels financially feasible to develop over the 30-year permit period of the incidental take permit compared with the status quo. So what that means is more economic development, more jobs over that permit period, more property and sales taxes coming to the county over that permit period compared to what would happen in the absence of a habitat conservation plan. So that's sort of the gist of the report. And again, the executive summary is available for your review. I'm happy to provide the direct link as well, but it is on our HCP website, and I'm happy to take questions as best I can. If there are a lot of detailed questions, I may have to punt a little bit, but we'll see how I can do.
I'd also add that we are engaging with Michael Cade at the Economic Development Council, as well as our internal economic development manager, Jenica Machado, and will then further engage with the EDC board in the coming weeks and others that are interested in the business and other communities throughout the county.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions for the team?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I guess on the second page, on the executive summary, under changes in the taxes, what is the sales tax change? I haven't had a chance to study this, but is that what you're asking? Is you're asking us if we have questions about?
Sure.
I mean, we're just,
So,
I'm glancing at this.
I'm catching up to you. It looks like they're basing those assumptions on the fact that more housing and more households is going to result in more household related consumption over the permit term. So if you take the number of housing units that would become available if we had an HCP versus fewer units without an HCP, that household spending generates an additional dollar amount in addition to labor income that can then translate into sales tax income spent locally. That's how I understand it. I am no economist, but reading the executive summary in the report, that's what it shakes out to be.
Well, is that would be additional revenue the county might receive if the HCP is approved, is that right? So it's not going to be an additional cost to property owners and such?
No, totally. It's about creating opportunities, right? So we're comparing to the status quo. If we had no HCP over this coming 30 years, there would probably remain more difficult for folks to develop their properties, to bring in those additional housing units on all of those properties that are affected by species listing. It takes longer. It can be more expensive to go through an individual HCP with the federal government. So by having the HCP in place, we're creating opportunity where there wouldn't have been any absent the HCP. And so that's what's being compared, status quo to having an HCP.
Is there any chance that we could say that it's a benefit to the community, or?
I think
or is that just implied? I just didn't read into it right.
Yeah, I think that we can absolutely say that. I think it's said so in the report in a variety of different ways. I mean, ultimately what this study shows is overall positive impacts to the community by having the HCP, positive economic impacts. And so I think we're safe to say that, yes, compared to the status quo, this will be a positive for folks in our county on an economic development point of view.
Robin, you had something on that point?
I did, and I apologize. I've not seen this report or read it, but I am curious on the sales tax collections. Are you saying this would be an increase for the county or for all of the taxing jurisdictions within Thurston County?
Yeah, I would have to dive deeper into the report to see what the permit area of the HCP was what we asked them to investigate. So I'm assuming, and I'd have to look more deeply into the report, that it's relative to the county itself and the sales taxes the county itself would be able to collect.
And as Jennifer stated, the full report is on the website. So if you want to get more details and dive deeply into the mechanics of it, please feel free. This is a third-party consultant. This is not Thurston County staff doing this report. So we will welcome any questions on any of these topics.
I'm very curious about these tax collection computations.
Great.
When you say the county itself, Jennifer, you mean the unincorporated county, because that's the permit area.
That is the permit area. So that is my assumption. I'm not going to go out on a limb without diving more into those sections of the report.
So
back to you.
Okay, so I take it that we're going to have approval here in about the next week, huh?
No, this is a study.
I'm trying to be a little bit optimistic here.
Yeah.
Any ideas about when we might have this HCP approval?
Good question.
We still have
Jennifer,
no idea. Huh?
please feel free to relay the standard timeline that we provided. We can do that again.
Yeah, so we recently had a check-in with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The HCP remains under their review, and we are well into the required NEPA, SEPA environmental review process for that HCP, with a draft environmental impact statement to be published later this summer, and sticking to that timeline that we've been familiar with all along of concluding that environmental review process and HCP approval process by the end of this calendar year, and looking forward to hopefully an incidental take permit being issued in the first quarter of 2022.
So we remain on target with the plan as planned, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you.
And that's exactly, I mean, that's what I heard from U.S. Fish and Wildlife too, is confirmation that we were still on that track, that timeline. When we
And be assured, if any of these items change in terms of timing or process, we'll be to you as quickly as possible.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on this HCP economic study from any quarter?
No, sir.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 2 under Commissioner items, and this is the Might Roar Group, the More Right Group letter of support.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. The Office of Senator Patty Murray sent an email to request applications for federal appropriations. That includes both local and private requests. We have been working with the shared legislative agenda partners, and we have submitted some projects, including the I-5 for their consideration. This particular request is from the More Right Group. They are seeking a letter of support from the board. They are requesting $2,306,590 to expand the Disaster Distribution Center to increase their capacity service to over 500 organizations. This particular outfit is a minority-owned and minority-led organization that really has been proven to provide tangible supplies and goods during this pandemic. But also in the past, they have been able to provide support families in need during any disaster. This particular request is to expand their operations. And again, I have a draft letter for your consideration. And I know that Commissioner Mejia was approached on this. She requested for me to bring for the board consideration. Any questions?
Commissioner Edwards, anything?
No, sir.
I don't think I do either. Commissioner Mejia, would you like to comment?
Yeah, so the More Right Group, it's a wonderful local organization. I believe they're considered one of the disaster prone organizations. So basically they get in the West Coast, so they get a lot of resources that they distribute among the nonprofits and the communities. I know they are approached by several nonprofits whenever they're in need of supplies. If you haven't visited their warehouse, I know the executive director loves to give tours of where they're located right now. They've been working with the Port of Olympia.
I toured their place when they were looking for a place, and it was quite something. And I'm glad they were able to work with the port on a better location. I haven't seen the new location, or it's not that new now, but okay, good. So I guess it sounds like there's concurrence to.
Yep.
So
with your concurrence, I will just add your electronic signatures to this, and we can process that as soon as feasible.
Okie doke. All right, then that takes us to 10.3, public testimony.
I really don't have any follow-up on public testimony, sir.
Okay. Then we're at commissioner items. I know we punted on a little bit on Commissioner Edwards had brought up the question about having legal counsel present in more of our sessions. And I don't know, my initial reaction to that is that I'm guessing that the answer to that, I don't see a problem. I mean, theoretically, yeah. I mean, why not have, you know, the security of legal advice at any given moment? I'd like to walk around my whole life with a lawyer next to me, but the resources, I guess, are the issue. You know, I'm imagining that to do more is probably going to mean more capacity needed from the prosecuting attorney's office, which is why I thought maybe it's a topic we could address with them when we have a full hour with their office on Thursday. But, you know, I tend to, you know, I guess I have a little bit of an advantage because I can sort of see legal issues coming with my background. And if I feel like there's an issue like that spinning toward me, I will say, stop, I want to get an opinion from counsel. And that may be more difficult for somebody else to see coming. So I do understand the concept. But again, I think that I know Elizabeth doesn't just sit at meetings with us. She's doing a lot of work above and beyond, you know, just giving us advice during meetings. I've seen that work firsthand. So we'd have to make sure that, you know, the resources are there for that work to get done, as well as any new responsibilities we place on the prosecuting attorney or the board's counsel. County manager, is that a fair characterization of the situation?
Yes, that is correct, sir. And Elizabeth is out of the office today, this week on vacation. Scott Cushion is covering for her. I asked him to attend this afternoon's meeting. And let me touch base with Elizabeth, just to hear her perspective in terms of resources, availability, and everything else. And also, I think some of the conversation that you may need to have with her is when a commissioner asks for a legal opinion in a public setting, whether she's in the position to say that in public or would they like to go into an executive session. And I think that's probably the conversation that you may need to have with her, just to understand that, you know, if you seek a legal opinion on an item that is brought up during a conversation, what will be the best approach to get to that point? And that is probably something that is worth discussing with Elizabeth. And my suggestion would be during an executive session as to how, what the board's expectations are, and also what the role that Elizabeth has in providing a legal opinion in a public setting.
That's a really important point, because any citizen can go, who wants a legal opinion, can go to a lawyer. That conversation is protected by attorney-client privilege. They can, you know, ask for that advice. We're operating under a public, you know, the Open Public Meetings Act. And so we as a board do not have that latitude to have a discussion. Well, we do have the latitude, but it has to be done mechanically through an executive session. And I'm not sure how that would function in terms of our day-to-day or week-to-week board meetings and questions that might come, decisions. And Commissioner Edwards, you mentioned, you know, anytime we make a decision, you'd like to have that assurance. So we need to sort of talk about the mechanics of that, I guess.
I guess I don't think it's any time we make a decision. I think it's just sometimes when we make a decision, but oftentimes we don't know when we're going to make that decision. Right. And so, and I do want to clarify something I think was taken exception to, that I was kind of implying that there was something new added to the activities for today. And the only reason I said that was when I reviewed what we had last week that was for today, and the material I had for today's meeting, this letter on the Ethereum.
More right group?
Yeah, well, no, the letter that we're we're contemplating on signing was not on my agenda that I reviewed from last week. That's all. So, and then
continued from the last.
I mean, I know we talked about it, and I just didn't know where it was going to land, and it landed on there today. Wasn't anything wrong with it. It was just new stuff, you know, on there from what was printed last week when we took stuff home to review. That's all. So that's where I'm at on that issue.
On the letter of intent, Commissioner?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I was just following the direction. The board decided to move that item for a week. And I added that this morning because it was we didn't include that following the board's direction.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just new. I know we've talked about it. It's been a topic of conversation, so that's not an issue. I just use that as an example of how sometimes things end up on our agenda that maybe we weren't prepared for. I didn't know it was going to fit right then, and it was added yesterday. I didn't have that new edition. I don't know when it was printed, but that's fine. So the public also probably didn't get that same information. But I think what this boils down to in the end, because I realize legal can't be here all the time, but all the material that we get, I really don't see why we don't get all of it sooner, except when there's an emergency. And then when we had a question, we could ask legal about the particular issue at hand at that point in time. We'd have time to review it, and we would have time to put in a request to legal, hey, is everything okay here? You know, going back to the whole meeting thing, we're trying to adjust to meet the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, and we want to do it right, and all the above. So when we make some of those decisions and there's question, I think what was brought to our attention was the disparity, if you will, between how different county commissioners do business all around the state. Everybody's doing something different, it sounded like. So how are we to know if we're exactly doing something right? And that brings me back to a certain amount of protection that is afforded us as a body when we make a decision and we've said to council and we've got it on record or something in writing, it can't be something of privileged nature because, as the chair said, we're doing the public's work, and so we have to kind of work out in front of the public. So I just want everyone to know that, hey, we asked legal and legal said we're okay. So if we get drug in front of the court for some supposedly illegal activity, we've got something to fall back on and say, well, heck, we were told by legal counsel that we were okay. So that's kind of where I'm coming from here. I don't know how to explain it any better than I think we need to be better prepared ourselves. But to be better prepared ourselves, I think legal sometimes has to review stuff and be able to assure us that, yeah, under the RCW, this is okay, or under the Open Meetings Act, this is okay, or this isn't going to commit us to too much revenue that we won't be able to handle it in case we change our mind. Anything like that. So that's where I'm coming from. And I guess the solution is get our information in, you know, a couple weeks ahead of time, maybe before we take an action. Don't know the answer to that. I mean, I'm wondering if my seatmates are interested in developing some type of protection for themselves should we face adverse conditions, that's all.
Commissioner Mejia. Any 2 cents or 3 cents to provide?
I go back to the staffing of the prosecutor. I mean, do they have the capability to be here at every meeting? So I guess I'm going just back to your point, Commissioner Menser, of, you know, does the prosecutor have the staffing capabilities to have someone at every board meeting? And if they're going to be here at every board meeting, does that mean they're going to be at every specific work session and check-in? And where do we stop it? Those are just my 2 cents from it.
Hey, Chair, could I throw in one more cent?
Well, let me respond real quick to that.
Okay.
I think when I first joined the board and watching board meetings before I became on the board, I noticed legal counsel being more present, kind of at the 2 p.m. Tuesday meeting, kind of consistently. Hasn't been quite that way lately for whatever reason, but I always questioned, once I got into the board and saw how we operated, it started to occur to me that it really made more sense if legal counsel was going to spend its time, consistently at a certain session. It's probably this morning session we have more questions and get ourselves into more trouble than, by the 2 p.m. meeting, we've sort of worked those items out and had questions answered. So if it's a matter of choosing with limited resources, where to deploy those resources, I'd rather have council present at every 9 a.m. Tuesday meeting than every 2 p.m. Tuesday meeting, because hopefully we've got the wrinkles ironed out. I know things can happen in the board meeting, but go ahead, Ramiro.
Let me work with Elizabeth, and I think I understand what the board is intended to have, and I will have her come and have a conversation with you on an executive session. But let me bring this to, and I'm going to pick today's agenda items. And as you review those items last week, and you review those items again this week. Last week, you had questions on some items. We answered those questions. You made some decisions to delay some items. We just move forward as to how the board would like to see. But every single item that you will be considering today, from 3A, which is an agreement for Homeland Security, 3B, an agreement with Homeland Security, and every single item has been reviewed by the attorney assigned to each of the offices and departments. And before you sign any resolution, you consider any particular action, every single document has been reviewed by legal. So I don't think there is an item in here today, for instance, that doesn't have a legal review at that specific level the board requires. So, and we have been practicing this for years to review items a week in advance, except for some items that require some emergency action by you. And we answer those questions the week before. You make some decisions. If we don't find the answers, we'll bring back to you. And the atrium letter of intent is a good example. You reviewed the item last week. You decided to move that item to this week. You reviewed the item today, and you decided to move that to next week. So within that process, I don't think there has any items for your consideration today that have not been reviewed by your attorneys.
Can I comment on that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know if I differ with the county manager's assessment of what is going on here, but I do think I agree with your position on maybe the 9 o'clock meeting is much more relevant than the afternoon meeting, because that is when we get our questions. And so that's all I'm looking for. I don't want to tie up a bunch of unnecessary time. And very seldom do we have issues at a meeting that that's scheduled at 2 o'clock. We've got it all worked out by the time we get there. Yeah. So I think the 9 o'clock thing, and I think the county manager has expressed he understands where we're going with that particular issue. My concern is that, and the only reason I brought up this atrium thing is when I reviewed today's agenda, Friday, I think I reviewed it, or over the weekend, it didn't have that on there. It didn't have the atrium letter on there, that's all. So it was added yesterday. It's no big deal. It's not like we're trying to slip anything in. We're doing business. And when it comes to the attorney, I mean, we're catching quite a bit of flack over this issue from the community, I'll just put it that way. And the allegations are, well, you can't do this if it's not on the capital plan, or if it hasn't been part of the adjusted budget, or whatever. I don't know all those things. I just want to make sure we get them covered. So the 9 o'clock meeting is probably about right, so that we could have somebody here each time, even if council at that point in time was to say, well, that is an issue that's been raised, and I'll have to review it, and I'll let you know tomorrow or next week. But I think that even makes it more important that we get all of our information well ahead of time, not a day or two ahead of time, but well ahead of time, unless it's of an emergent nature. Because if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. Everything else we do should be relatively, staff has worked on it from all different segments of the county. They're bringing it forward, ends up on our review so that we can see it ahead of time. And many of these are done 2 weeks out, because we not only did today's 18th meeting, we also did the 25th meeting. But all I'm saying is, the sooner we get it, probably the less question we would have, or the ability to ask for clarification. And I see most of the boards and things that I've ever sat on, they give you more information earlier rather than later. It's very seldom that things are thrown in at the last minute. So other than emergency, I guess I'll go all the way back to what I raised a month or so ago, that we need more information sooner, not later. And I know that staff is working towards that goal, but I'm probably one of those impatient individuals that's always squawking trying to get it fixed. So if that was in place, I don't think I'd be asking these questions today. I would have asked them earlier, especially if we would have had council available at our 9 o'clock meetings.
Okay, so County Manager will follow up for us on that item with Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Mejia, do you have a commissioner item?
I do not, sir.
Okay.
She can probably benefit from a break.
Yeah, Commissioner Mejia.
She's on rough.
I don't think we've got any contested items this afternoon. If you need to not be present, you certainly have my support on that. I just had one thing, since we don't have a commissioner's check-in. I sat yesterday morning with the Capital Lake Deschutes Estuary Work Group, Executive Work Group, and the draft EIS is coming at the end of June. They would like to present to the board in July, as they're going to do to all the jurisdictions. They'd like an hour of our time in July, so I'm just throwing that to the county manager, and hopefully the board would be supportive of hearing kind of where they're at on everything, because I'd like to hear my seatmates' input, and that'd be the best way for me to get it, is to have you guys hear that summary, and then we can discuss it as needed.
I'll work with your assistant commissioner to get that going.
You'll be contacted, I believe, by DES, but I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay.
There were some jurisdictions like Olympia, for example, they break for the summer, and they only are going to have they only had 2 possible slots in July. And I don't know if my seatmates have time out of the office scheduled. I know I'll be gone for 4 or 5 days in the middle of July. So to the extent that there's time limitations on when it could happen, just maybe we should create a list of potential dates in July.
Okay.
Commissioner Edwards, any other commissioner items?
I guess we've got something coming up, I think, maybe on the lake management districts. I mean, we made a decision, I think, a week ago about Robin pointed out, so we could try to keep things legal and on track. And so we'll just take the money elsewhere, and kind of a shell game, but looks like we're gonna solve some of that. But what might be coming down the pike so that we can maybe assist other lakes that are looking towards water quality issues, and they might like to put something together. So are we gonna have staff that's gonna reach out to some of those organizations to see if we might wanna have additional lake management districts going in the county? That's one issue. The Veterans Fund, I think we're waiting for something back on the Veterans Fund. Is that right? Maybe the county manager knows that. We have no time frame yet, but something.
I will encourage the Commissioner Edwards to give me specifically what is it that you're looking for from the Veterans Fund based on what Mr. Pettis submitted.
I think the comparison to Kitsap County.
So that's what I submitted to them. What on Mr. Pettis' documentation that he submitted to the board, he stated that perhaps it's a cover-up. The internal audit was a cover-up. And with all due respect, I am not going to be having that conversation in the public.
Yeah, I don't know that that's.
No, that's specifically on his cover letter. And he accused me of a cover-up.
Well, all I want to do is do the best I can.
So I will encourage you, Commissioner Edwards, if you see within that feedback any specific items that you'd like me to explore as to how we can enhance the Veterans Fund, I will welcome that. I submitted that to the program manager as well as the advisory board to consider any of the options related to that particular recommendations.
Okay, and under some past agreement, we're not supposed to bug staff, so I got to bug you about are we getting a time frame that we're going to get something back from that group about veterans issues? The cover-up thing, I'm not familiar on that particularly. I'm very concerned about making sure that we give adequate service, the best service to our veterans. And it looked like from that initial information that we were given that Kitsap County does seem, they're kind of a comparable size and whatnot. And they kind of do things a little different and maybe do a better job. I don't know. I don't want to say that because I don't know that we're not doing as good a job. But from what I know about it so far, it looks like Kitsap County does more for their veterans than we're doing for ours. So that's why I raised that issue. I'm not allowed to go to talk to Mark, or I'm not supposed to or something. So I got to bug you. So that's kind of where I'm at on the veterans issues. Just wondering, have we got something coming up before the board here before too long?
I don't have any specific date on that, Commissioner.
Any chance we could get some type of an idea of when something's coming back to us?
Yeah, I will give you an idea when I get additional information.
Okay. Then do I have time for one other thing, sir?
You do. We have 10 minutes left.
On the third-party issue on planning, we're getting something back from planning relatively soon, I think, about their workload, maybe the fees and permits and all that kind of stuff. When is that coming up?
I believe we have already scheduled a briefing in early June.
For that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll suffice for now, sir.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Back at 2 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay.